Well, it's Thursday afternoon, and you'll notice that we're missing one key face on this screen. We're sad about that. I'm sad about that. I'm missing my partner in crime. I'm missing Maeve. Hey, everybody, I'm Andy. You know me. I've been doing this for a long time. And every time I've done it for the last 34 weeks, I have had somebody just over there. Maeve, who we will be having on the show in a couple weeks, decided to leave the country. And I don't know if it was because of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. I don't know if she was upset. I don't know what happened. But she is now in the great country of England. And so, Maeve, I know you're watching this. I know you're going to be catching the live archive a little bit later. Miss you. And it's going to be great to have you back, but enjoy your time there. And make sure to grab me some gifts so that you can send when you get back to Philly. Send them on down to me. I'm a huge London boy. Anyway, we usually take this time as the clock is counting down and as our faces are on the screen to give you a recommendation from myself or from Maeve. And while I don't have anybody to pitch any great ideas off to, I will tell you that my recommendation for you, the Altar Live fam, this week comes in the form of a sustainable, renewable resource. And of course, I'm talking about oat milk. Oat milk, for whatever reason, has captured my imagination. It has captured my attention. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago where I started putting things in my coffee. I'm a coffee snob. I like, just black coffee. God created coffee to be black. If he wanted it to have cream and sugar in it, he would have created it to have cream and sugar in it. But I drink 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day. And my second cup, I started putting a little bit of something in it. Sometimes it was just a creamer. Sometimes it was honey, which got kind of weird real quick. And then I discovered oat milk, and I was blown away. And then a couple of days ago, a guy I was talking to online introduced me to the idea of making your own oat milk. And I have to tell you, not only is it cheap, not only is it delicious, not only is it fun to watch these oats that you ostensibly eat in the morning that look like porridge and gruel and nastiness, if you flop them into a blender and put some dates or some honey or some peanut butter even in there, let it blend with some water, and then pull it out, it is delightful. So my recommendation for you, Altar Live fam, on the other side of this camera, go buy yourself a big $2 thing of Quaker Oats at the store, Publix or ShopRite or Save Mart or Piggly Wiggly, if you still have those where you're located. I think there's like 5 Piggly Wigglies left in the world. If you still have a Piggly Wiggly, go buy some oats, put some in there, a big hooping cup, 6 cups of water, blend those suckers up, put it in your coffee, enjoy life, enjoy a little bit of everything there. Today on the Altar Live show, we actually have a very, very special guest. But before we get to that, thanks everybody for being part of the Altar Live family. And if you have no clue what this show is about, you can head right down there. Oh, it's over there now. I moved my thing. You can head over to altarlive.com and you can actually find out a little bit more about this weird digital platform we call Altar Live. The Altar Live show is just designed to help you and to help any form of what you're doing in digital ministry, because we as a company truly believe that the church is stepping into the next generation through a digital medium. And that's why Altar Live was created, to really help you, to help your churches, to help your communities, to help your congregation grow and be discipled, to be just a little bit more like Jesus each and every day. And one of the churches that has been using Altar Live to a very large potential for, and we've been following them for a while. Obviously, they're part of the fam, but we're really, really impressed is the Table UMC and the Table United Methodist Church. And if you've watched any of our marketing pieces, if you've watched anything kind of in the last 6 months or so, you've seen their images, you've seen their graphics, you've seen kind of some of the stuff that they're doing at work, because they are really an example of how to use the platform real well. And today I asked, that was the wrong thing to hit. I asked if Molly from the Table UMC would join us, and she hemmed and she hawed for about 5 seconds and then answered yes in our email. And so today on the show, we have Molly Knapp. And Molly, thank you joining us from all the way out in California. How are you doing on this fine, fine Thursday afternoon?
I am fabulous. It is beautiful here. It's a lovely day. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. She was remarking that it's like 80, maybe 80-ish. I'm assuming like low humidity. Is that what we're dealing with up in Northern California?
Yes, low humidity,
Mm,
beautiful,
man,
lovely. Yeah.
my Florida bones are just jealous. We're at that point in Florida where you walk outside and you get offended that it is so humid. My body is just offended. I'm from Michigan, and so I'm just used to cold, arid, and dry. But enough about that. Molly, tell me, first of all, about you. How did you get involved in ministry? How did you get involved with the table? All those things. Give me your backstory.
Well, I am also from Michigan. I'm from Southwest Michigan, where I was raised Presbyterian,
Okay.
and then yeah, and then went to school in Chicago, and
Uh,
eventually transferred out west to California, where I found myself. Somebody invited me to a Methodist church, and I just fell in love and became a Methodist in my 20s. And have been very involved, active laity for years. And finally, uh, there was the call. So I am not the head pastor of the street, and there's two co-pastors there, Linda Duhirsu and Matt Smith, but I assist with the online ministry.
well, that's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about online ministry. When did you guys actually start doing digital ministry? Was it pre-pandemic? Was it post-pandemic? Was it mid-pandemic? When?
It was the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
It was the need to, there's got to be a way to reach people. We've got to continue keeping this community going. So initially it was just like whatever we could try.
Mm.
The Facebook, it wasn't, we didn't find Altar Live right away, but something. And then as we went on, it became obvious that there are folks that just cannot make it to a physical worship. And we ended up also bringing in folks that were from out of area
Hmm.
because we set up digital discipleship and that sort of thing. And so that worship became like a front porch to bring people into the ministry and the discipleship formation series we have. So
So,
once it was established, it became a necessity.
okay, and that was going to be my next question was, do you, in the church right now, is it looked at as the stepbrother to everything that's happening in a main worship gathering space, or is it actually being supported in a way that is helping it grow and thrive?
It's absolutely supported. It's seen almost as another campus, another site of ministry. And we've done that in some ways. We've done that by making sure that we're fully staffed. There's attention paid to production values in that worship. In the worship itself, there's always speaking to the people that are at home. It's not like, oh, by the way, you're tuning into the real worship. It's like, no, you're part of the worship service, and it's acknowledged that not everyone's sitting in the room. That doesn't mean that they're not part of the worship. And then Altar Live really does a nice job of allowing us to interact online in real time with, the comments, the chat section, and also the pews and the tables. And then to follow up, there was a decision made as to begin pulling in folks that weren't necessarily local to the physical church site, but who attended worship online and had done so and gone through discipleship and formation sequences and had gone through the classes we call Growing in Faith, which is kind of the first entry point, almost like a membership class you would think of, and to bring those folks into leadership within the church. So that the online constituency, that online site, could be represented in the choices the church was making going forward.
How are you getting any? I asked this to a lot of churches that I've been able to help personally and consult with, and then churches that Altar Live has helped with. And the responses are as varied as you might expect. So I'm going to ask you this question. Are you getting any pushback from elders, from, I don't know if you are elder or committee ran or anything along those lines. Are you getting any pushback as to the nature and the weight that you're putting behind digital ministry?
To my knowledge, no.
Good answer.
I would assume some conversations have happened that I have not been privy to. Just it was born of necessity. And then at a certain point, once you're supporting a community that's not local, if you're serious about that, if you're serious about making a space, then you need to continue supporting it.
Correct.
Is this really a church that's open to all? Because if it is, there are people that physically can't get into the worship space. So put your money where your mouth is. What is your ministry about?
Absolutely. So walk me through your journey of finding Altar Live. Where did you guys start in terms of platform usage? And, you kind of mentioned Facebook there. What were you doing? And then how did you find Altar Live, excuse me? Molly, did we lose you? Well, we might have lost Molly there. And if that's the case, then we can come back to the live spot in just a second. Let me pull her. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'll pull her out of there. Cool. Molly and the Table UMC actually have been doing a lot in terms of Altar Live, and I'm going to hope that she can get back on the call to walk us through a couple of those things. But one of the things that they have really been able to help with or really been able to see is the same thing that I'm hoping you can see on the other side of this lens, that it doesn't just stop with just the chat. I think a lot of times we end up feeling the pull and the weight of, well, our people are just talking about chat, and our people are just, that's all that church is just living in a chat room, and then that's it. But the table's doing a lot more than that. And so right on cue, Molly rejoins us again. Hello there. And the internet is such a fun thing, isn't it?
I am sorry. I heard about half of what you said. Are you able to see me?
I can see you. Can you see me right now?
I heard about a chat room.
Cool. Awesome. Here, I'm gonna have you pull out. I'm gonna kick you from here, and then if you can do me a favor and reload your browser, and then we'll try this all again.
You got
Sound
it.
Good? All right.
Okay.
All right. So I kicked Molly out. She wasn't doing us any good, huh? I'm kidding. Hopefully she goes back and watches this and laughs at me a little bit. But in the meantime, when we go to talk about what digital ministry actually is, it doesn't really stop at the chat room. It doesn't really stop. That's kind of a starting place. But ministry is all about relationships. Ministry is all about the common ground that you, as pastor, leader, community leader, whatever, are finding with your congregation and finding with your people. And there are a lot of tools out there that will allow you to chat. I've had multiple conversations over the last couple of days with people that are using, even just texting to chat with their people. And that's fine. But it doesn't end up, it doesn't help anybody if all you're doing is just chatting. That's not actual, that's where the ministry starts, but that's not actually where we end up. And so let's see if we've got Molly back right now with us. Oh, Molly just has a black screen. Maybe hopefully she can hear me. And if she can't hear me, I just heard her. That's okay. Molly, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, instead of, we'll just do this as an audio interview. How's that for right now?
Okay.
Okay, great. So where we left off, we were kind of talking about the start of your journey through finding Altar Live, kind of the start of your platforms. And, you had mentioned Facebook a little bit. What were you guys using, and how did you find out about Altar Live?
We were using just tools to broadcast to Facebook. We were using just, cameras. There was nothing fancy about it at all. And using I can't recall, but there was a program that had it was like a teleprompter type deal. So you could look at the camera in your phone and you could see where you were at in worship. But Altar Live was looking at different tools to find something that allowed the broadcast, but also allowed interaction in a real way. And the pews and the tables do that. You can actually see folks. You can watch the reaction if you want to attend worship together. You can sit in a pew and have this kind of moment with other folks, and that was important. Also, Altar Live is useful because you can create rooms. We've used it for some of our discipleship groups, but we just looked at other tools and tried to find that package, that interaction plus the broadcast quality. So Altar Live met those requirements. And then the other thing was that this is a church that tries kind of new things, and Altar Live was new. So it was like, well, let's find out how far we can push it. That's been a theme. If it doesn't work, well, we'll do something else. But let's just find out and let's just try. And it worked well.
So how are you guys getting your video into Altar Live right now?
So right now we have a setup. We have two cameras in Sanctuary. We've got a board. We've got someone who operates sound and another who operates the broadcast. And when we put together worship, we actually have cues within the sermon, so we know when to switch. Within a sermon, we have cues within the larger worship series. And everybody in Sanctuary is following along, and it is I believe it's church planner.
Yeah.
But it's actually just a sequence, and you can upload all the music, and everybody's got a backup, so you can follow along, and it works really well. So everybody uses iPads in Sanctuary, and then except for the people in the booth, and they actually have large screens and follows along with where we are.
That's interesting. So was there any pushback when you guys had started switching over to using iPads? Was there any technology adoption failure or anything that was kind of a bump or a hurdle? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes we hear from churches that are thinking about switching to Ultra Live. They say such things as, well, I don't know that I could ever get X, Y, and this person and that person on board with this because they'll never want to learn the technology. Was it tough for you guys to kind of push that through?
Yes. And I've got to say, I don't think of myself as old, but even for me, it was like, I like the paper. I like to have it in my hand. Paper does not go down. But having multiple people in a sanctuary with the same iPad, that if an iPad fails, somebody else can just hand off to you. And then once the musicians, you can actually write in that platform on, any notes as you're rehearsing. So it became useful as a group situation. So once, the musicians were on board, it was fairly easy to roll out as well.
Interesting. In terms of preaching styles, has anything changed? I know you had mentioned there were little cues to look at the camera. How has an overall service or an overall preaching style changed for you guys during this?
So I came in once we were going online, but before Ultra Live. But something that I've understood has changed is just some basic changes to how things run during the pandemic for safety. The passing of the peace, how we hold communion, those sorts of things. But those aren't necessarily related to Ultra Live. Those are related to just the need for physical distancing. But a happy, outcome of that is that it makes those items more accessible to people online as well. Yep. Because it's clearly something that everyone can do, even if you're attending digitally in your living room, or if you're there in person.
That's interesting. Moving kind of to, you had mentioned rooms and things like that. Are you guys running small groups or any sort of grouping mechanism on Ultra Live?
We are.
Awesome.
So we have a few dozen small groups that run weekly.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got a really strong discipleship program. And so Ultra Live, some groups, we leave it up to groups. You can use whatever platform you want. If you want to meet in person, if you want to, there's 2 leaders per group, just do whatever's right for the folks that are involved in your group. And so some do meet on Ultra Live. There are some that are still diehard Zoom. There are others that meet in person. And some of that also depends on digital savvy. Some folks just do not want to go online.
Of course.
But because during the pandemic and with the digital ministry, we got folks in out of area, there are some discipleship groups that will always be online. I mean, when you've got folks in other states, or when people go on vacation, sometimes they'll make a point of switching to a digital platform while some of their folks in their group are on vacation, so those folks can attend. Those changes happen.
Yeah. Are you running any sort of other events outside of just a Sunday service and, digital small groups? Are you guys doing any like kids shows or movie nights or anything like that?
We haven't done that.
Okay.
We have done staff meetings. We've done, we had a series of conversations around the Easter season about having hard conversations and gathering with purpose. And we held some of those. We did signups and held those conversations online. I don't know about the kids stuff yet. I know that we tried to do some of the some of the digital children's time items online, but those were pre-recorded.
And it's tough.
But now, yeah.
Kids and online are just, They're bouncing around the room. It's tough. You got to have something really, really, really short and really colorful, and it's not a whole lot of people are doing it, not well, at least. The when you guys were in pandemic, how long were you shut down for?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. A year maybe?
Oh wow, a whole year.
I think so. I'm trying to think now. Maybe it was less. It felt like a year. How about that? It felt like a year.
Cool. Yeah.
We did
Go ahead.
we did continue to meet in person. However, we have another site, Table Farm, and it's a ministry and it's also a site. It's our youth program, and it's a community garden where we raise food for the local food bank and do discipleship formation activities with our youth out there. So we continue to meet there, and we brought in other groups for adult members and that sort of thing that happened out there. That was a way to meet safely because we were outside and have fellowship and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's amazing. How many people were meeting there regularly?
Several dozen.
Oh,
We also have work days. So in the winter, we have one or two, times that people can sign up and show up and do volunteer shifts. And in the summer, we have 3 times a week, in addition to any youth activities. We also do stuff out there, like the youth. We did a series of, we got a new garden shed. So we hired a muralist to come out and work with our youth to paint a mural. So any activities we could do out there. We also did an alternate Ash Wednesday service out there. We did both in sanctuary, which was broadcast using Altar Live, but we also did a service out at the farm for people who wanted to come out there, and really tied that whole the imposition of ashes to the composting and the turning of the earth, and the way that ministry relates to the Christian seasons.
that is so cool. Man, I'm jealous. I want to fly out there and be part of that.
Come on out.
That would be amazing. So as you've been using Ultralive, this is going to be like my last big question, and this is a big one here. So strap your listening headphones on.
Okay.
What are, for anyone watching, listening, either live or on demand, what would be some tips and tricks that you have for people that are either getting started with Ultralive or are using it, or, some things that you guys have found during your usage?
I think you need to commit that matters to your community, and it's something you're going to do, because there will be bumps, and you've got to commit to putting money and people behind it. Having people online to guide a conversation, to tie questions back into the sermon, to lead the virtual coffee tables is all really important. I also believe that you have to be realistic about, not everybody has the technology to do something like this. Not everybody has a high enough bandwidth internet connection. Not everybody has a current device, and that's okay. Like, you just cannot do some things if you've got, 2005 technology, and that's okay. But you can still say, we're moving forward with this because it needs to happen, and it doesn't need to work for everybody. And the in-person worship doesn't work for everybody too, right? Like, this is just an alternate platform that's available. So those are 2 big things. Like, don't let that scare you away. Just commit and know that it's not for everybody, nor is it ever meant to be for everybody, and not every ministry is for everybody ever. So understand your constituency and go for it.
That is great. I wish we had a lot more of that understanding in our church worldwide as well. In terms of hosts and in terms of greeters and things, do you guys have like a training protocol? Do you have like a class system that you run them through? How does that all work for you?
We pull in folks that are on staff already, or they're laity that are very involved already. And so they're people already involved in the church. They understand the church. We also have documentation, like big documents that outline all the possible things that could go wrong and what to do when they happen, and what to say and how we open. And we've got, so I guess you could say there's informal training, but a lot of it comes from the documentation and from just, riding along with folks that are already doing it, and seeing that sequence and how you unroll things and how you tie conversation online to what's happening in sanctuary to create a cohesive experience. And then we also have times we change it up. Oh, something I didn't mention before, something we found helpful too, was we run a short video before service, and it's got all different folks in it. It just talks, and it's just for people that are attending online, like, hey, you might want to wear headphones or get some speakers plugged in to get the most out of the music, or you might want to gather together items that are meaningful for you and help you create a sacred space, whether it's a cross or a candle or a piece of fabric or whatever you need to kind of enter into that space and acknowledge this is a sacred place. And that description of how we go about that and talk about that is also in that document. And we just follow the same thing every week. We have a protocol for the people that are running the online service, communicating with the people in the booth. So we go live at the appropriate times. We do sound check, that sort of thing. So not a formal training, but documentation, and you ride along and you always have those documents to refer to.
Absolutely. Do you have any, this might be plumbing the depths a little bit, but do you have any stories of life change that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, golly. Yeah, definitely. This is a church that seeks to make space for people that have been not necessarily had the best experience in the past with church. So consequently, there are people that show up who they're online specifically because they're afraid to walk in a sanctuary.
Yeah.
Because you can attend anonymously. And then at a certain point they log in. And then they've got a name. And at a certain point they join a discussion. And people who, they're still hungry, but they've been burned. And so they're just tiptoeing in. And to be able to offer that place, like you can tiptoe in and you can disconnect at any time, and that's okay. And it's not like you're inside a building feeling frightened if something happens that goes south for you. But I think those conversations have been really powerful and meaningful for me. And I feel like I've been really blessed to be present when people are saying some of those things, like I didn't know I could do this again, or I might go to the actual sanctuary. So yeah, I would say that. And people come there when they're not necessarily able to get in other ways too. So you also have situations where people are attending because there's trauma in their life and they need something and they don't have a connection to church at all. So I guess to kind of bounce off in another way, something that Altar Live does as well, and it does it or I should say that platform, because the church makes a point to talk to people who do not have a church background and are coming from many different places, is that there's a desire to educate on what is this Christian thing and what does it mean when we do something. And there's a lot of description as it happens, as it goes along. And I think that also helps because you can reiterate that in the chat section on the online platform, or elevate questions, or if somebody doesn't understand something, it gives you that opportunity to communicate in that way, in a less threatening way than maybe being in person. So those two things, tying together the actual way the service is run with the platform, reinforcing that safety, is helpful.
That's good. The interesting thing that I have seen and heard from churches that are leaning into online is that I actually had a conversation with a guy, and he was recounting that this is the closest that we as the church will ever feel to the omnipresence of the Holy Spirit. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, if you think about it, if we truly believe that God is who he says he is, and that Jesus is who he says he is, and that Jesus sent the comforter of the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit literally is indwelling all believers at all times, and that the Holy Spirit can be in and amongst us. And you Molly just referenced creating a sacred space, that the Holy Spirit can be in that presence. He said, what's to stop us from feeling like this is how the Holy Spirit views things, being in all places at all times across the world? And that set me back a little bit, because it was the first time I had ever put one of the big characteristics of God into the digital space. And that has formed the last sort of 3 years of my ministry. And I think you're finding that, and I'm thinking other people are finding that. So that is so cool. You have those stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Molly, anything else for our Altar Live fam before we wrap this little interview up here?
Oh, golly. No, sorry, I'm shrouded in darkness. But
hey, step into the light, Molly. That's all you got to do. Just I'm from Florida. I lived in Georgia. I can get all Southern Baptist preacher if you need me to. Step into the light, young lady. Step into the light. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Molly, for joining us all the way from California. We so appreciate. We appreciate what you are doing with the table. We appreciate everything you guys are doing with your entire church. And keep up the good work. We're very you don't ever hear of a company being proud of things, but like on the inside, we're very proud of what you all are doing.
Oh, it's really nice to have a platform that enables us to do this. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. Well, Molly, thank you. Everybody else, Ultra Live fam, thank you as we close out today. Remember, if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that we can help with, we are always here. One of us, either myself or Maeve or Stephanie or any one of our other developer team will be around to catch your message, to catch your chat, to catch your comment, to catch whatever. We love you. We're so thankful for you. We're so thankful for what you're doing here in the ministry. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.